Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Psychedelic Art Exchange channel. We are filming this while session 2 of our February mega auction is up and running. And while we were looking for items that we wanted to discuss on this channel, we found that a lot of them fall into two categories of smaller handbills and flyers. One of them is vintage British items, and the other one is Velvet Underground items. We love both of these things, both of these places in rock history. So we're going to dig a little deeper into them for you.
Yeah, so this is a real interesting collection of handbills and flyers in all kinds of different conditions and years, and covers a lot of ground and territory. And a lot of this stuff we've never handled before. It's super, super scarce. Not all of it's really sexy from a design standpoint, but from a historical standpoint, this stuff is difficult to reproduce, in another sale. So starting off with, Jimmy. So we have a Jimmy flyer here, and we don't even think that a poster for this event exists.
Yeah, we cannot verify that such is out there.
Yeah, this is the only thing we found, and the Woburn Music Festival, and it had a bunch of UK stuff going on in it, including Fleetwood Mac when they were a blues
Yeah,
band, and
yeah.
Pentangle that was a folk rock band, and Tyrannosaurus Rex, but Jimmy was obviously the big deal here.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we and he I think was just like flying back and forth between the UK and the US at that point, was like sort of just like a British guy at that point in time, but was playing a lot of shows in the US. And I think if I remember correctly, he landed to play this show, and then like the next day flew back to the States. There's a whole lot of information about his appearance at this festival on his website, which you can find in our auction description. But this is very, very special and interesting. Not a whole lot seems to be out there about this flyer. And there's just not, it's not like a particularly well documented festival outside of Jimmy, from what we can tell.
No, not like Canterbury or anything like that.
Right.
This is it was put on by Melody Maker, though. That was a British pop magazine at the time, which is kind of a
That's
nice
a fun
footnote of
one.
this. So moving right along for,
Mhm.
UK bands of the 60s, we have the Pink Floyd, and this is from 69, sort of a transitional period for the band. I think they were recording Amagama or right
Mhm.
around releasing Amagama. It was definitely the Gilmore era, and careful
Yeah.
with that axe, Eugene.
Yeah, we've never sold this one before. I really like the look of it, and it's got a ticket order form on there.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, this is a ticket order form, as most of these flyers were, but this one has some design to it. The other ones are kind of plain, but this has some sparkle to it. So
it's pink.
yes, yes, very well done. And now we get into the Who, the Who. We that need no introduction, and this is a lot of this. There's one piece from '67 in here, but most of this is from '69 when they were touring behind Tommy, and they had playing Woodstock and the Fillmore East and all that, which you guys are all familiar with
We've
those
talked
pieces.
about that
But
enough for sure.
yes, but so we have again for the Who. This is some pretty rare stuff. Again, not sexy on the design front, but the pavilion in Bath. Bath's a beautiful little historic town, and and it is this thin little flyer. It's like barely exists. It wants to fly away. It's so thin.
Yeah, we get those in from time to time, and they tend to do well. They go back, I think, to like maybe the early '60s. Those little Bath handbills, and
Yeah,
we
and,
don't
and
know how many of the shows actually happened because they're not very well documented, but they're very historic and cool.
and very thin. Again, not many of them
Hmm.
could have survived because they barely exist. Anyhow, what's this yellow one? Fairfield Hall. Any notes about that?
No, but this was '69, and it was, right as they were releasing Tommy and like exploding in popularity, especially in the US.
I think this was after they came back from the US, these shows.
I don't know.
All right, well, I
You can
believe that's the
fact
case.
check me.
Well, let's go back to the. So this is really
They had just released Tommy though a few months prior, so that sounds right.
and here we have the 67 one, which really is, again, the gem of the group. And it's, it's pasted on a piece of construction paper, and that's how we got it in. But it's certainly, if you're a Who freak, I doubt you have this in your collection, and you ought to. So that kind of wraps up the Who thing, and now we can talk about the Velvets, which is one of our personal favorite subjects to talk about, the Velvet Underground. And how they fell into the whole thing of 60s music, and they really were
somehow we're also the start of so much more.
Yeah, so much more. I mean, it really was, they were an avant-garde band. John Cale was brilliant, and then Lou sort of, that juxtaposition to that. And I mean, you all know the story. This is the BGA handbill, which is done very well. This is not in a CGC holder, but it's in good shape. It has like a review on the back, which is, this piece does very well at auction.
And we rarely offer the handbill. I think we've only offered it like 3 times.
Yeah, the poster seems to come up more. It's definitely one of the set chasers, but it is, it's this beautiful pink thing. And we've talked before about these shows, the Exploding Plastic Inevitable, and how they weren't all that well received in San Francisco, and that beautiful tour with all that. So
yeah, I mean, they didn't even have their album out yet at this point. It's very early for them and very weird, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was that whole like weird kind of avant-garde S&M weirdness. It was the Velvets. And it's so earth-shattering at the time, really.
Yeah.
So, but then another super rare piece that hardly comes up at all. This is the Velvet Underground at the Boston Tea Party, which the Boston Tea Party material hardly shows up at all. And when it does, it always gets high results. And here's a reasonably good condition handbill.
Yeah, and they loved that venue. I think they said it was like their favorite place to play or something.
There's a lot of bands that love that venue. There must have been a vibe there. I mean, I remember the Allman Brothers talking about how it was one of their favorite places to play. And yeah, there's it is legendary, and the material is super scarce. It's some of the hardest posters out there. So if you chase Tea Party material, this is one of the
I love that design. It's great.
Yeah, it's a beauty. From there,
ooh, teeny tiny.
The Hippodrome in San Diego, which we've sold this poster before, and I don't think we've ever handled this card. This is a tiny little thing. It's the same design as the poster. It certainly doesn't come up at all.
Right. And yeah, that was at the tail end of John Cale's time with the band. And he played his last show with the band, I think like a month or 2 later at the Boston Tea Party. Interestingly. Really? Yes. And then
I mean, that was sort of the end of the original lineup, and so that would be would the new lineup start here? And
yes, the first shows with Doug Ewell, who replaced John Cale, are advertised on this little. It's hold it up a little bit. It's not strictly a Velvet Underground piece, but they are listed on there. It's a whole calendar of events from, I believe, is it September 68
in Cleveland? Yeah,
in Cleveland.
Oh my God, I can't even read. The Stone Puttons, which was Linda Ronstadt's early band. I mean, this is it's on kind of heavy stock, and it's a beautiful piece. There's a good piece of provenance that comes with this. A letter from Record Mecca from Jeff Gold, who's signing off on this, that it came from the collection of
it came directly from Sterling Morrison's widow.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, so that's Sterling Morrison from the Velvet Underground. So it is you can draw a direct line to the Velvet Underground in many ways, even though it has a lot of other artists on there too.
Yes. And here, this is probably my favorite of the batch because we love the Texas stuff and just a weird, odd, humorous illustration.
It's good. It's good. We talked a lot about Texas in our last video, and the Vulcan Gas Company. This one we see periodically, but it's quite rare.
Yeah, it's a nutty little Jim Franklin design, and it's plain, but the colors really work, and yeah, it's a wonderful little piece. So, again, this is a deep dive, but if you're a Velvets collector, this is stuff you need. If you don't have it, now's the time.
And they all look really cool. And you know how I feel about that.
How do you feel?
I'm there for the art. But the history is cool too.
Wow.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We had a good time walking you through all of those posters, and you can bid on them in session 2 of our February mega auction, which ends actually in March, on March 2nd, this upcoming Sunday at 9:00 p.m. Eastern Time. The links for everything are in the description below me. Thank you for being here.
Thanks
See you next
again.
time.